everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to day 3 of the Zambian Virtual Conservation Careers Fair. We're in our second session of the day, and we have someone very exciting in this session. We have Phiri, who is a co-founder of a great organization. Today, we're talking about founding your own organization. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're most welcome. Thanks for having me.
Great. This is a very exciting session for me, and I'm sure a lot of people that are watching. If you have any questions about founding your own organization, or you would like to ask Phiri a question, please drop it in our comment section or send it to our inbox, and we will be sure to answer the questions at the end of the session. I think we will start with what a lot of us have seen on social media a lot. A lot of people speak so highly of you. We've heard so much. We would like to hear from you. Who is Phiri?
Timothy Kamuzu Phiri is a Lusaka-based environmentalist.
Okay.
Born in Lusaka, first born amongst 6 siblings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Went to school, primary education, Chelston Primary School. Secondary education, St. Mary's Minor Seminary, a Catholic school in Eastern Province. Did my college education in Kitwe at Koseko, Copperbelt Secondary Teachers Training College.
Okay.
Then did my degree at UNZA, Bachelor of Science in Biogeography, and eventually a Master's in Environmental Education at UNZA as well. I worked as a teacher at St. Canisius in Monze, then lectured at UNZA as well, before leaving UNZA to join the NGO world, and that's what I'm up to right now.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because a lot of us are very curious about the transition. Tell us, how did you move from a lecturer at Zambia's highest learning institution to founding your own NGO?
Okay. Well, when I was at Koseko doing my diploma, I had dreams just like everyone else. So I had it in my mind that after my diploma, I would have to do a degree eventually whilst working, do a master's eventually whilst working.
Oh, wow.
And if I do a master's, I should progress in my career path and become a lecturer, either at a teacher training college or at the highest possible institution, which in our case is Zambia. So that's the path I took, and that's the dream I chased. When I got to UNZA, finally, and started lecturing in ecology for environmental education, one of the first responsibilities I was given was to coordinate a program called the Environmental Education Community Experience, which involved placing environmental education students in 4th year in various organizations, government, private sector, and the NGO world.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So through that, I interacted a lot with different people. Interacted a lot with people in the NGO circles. I created friendships, I created bonds, and it sparked a passion in me, you know, what people were doing in the field, how they practiced environmental education on the ground. So 4 years before I left UNZA, that seed started growing, and I made up my mind that over the next 4 years, I'll have to find a way to transition out and join the NGO circles to practice environmental education. So the inspiration really came from my interaction with the various organizations whilst I was coordinating that particular program. Apart from that, you know, before you make a decision, you need to consult.
Yes.
So whilst I was lecturing, I did some thorough consultation with a number of people I knew in NGO circles.
Okay.
And you know, they mentor you, they give you guidance, and that guidance gives you the confidence to take certain risks. Of course, whatever risk one takes is not supposed to be without any thorough thought. It's supposed to be calculated. So the guidance from my mentors gave me the confidence when the time came to make the big jump. So that's how I left UNZA and co-founded an NGO with my brother.
Oh, wow.
So the co-founder of Mijo Eco Care is actually my young brother, Innocent Kondwani Phiri, who's a sociologist and an expert in developmental studies. So that's how we started the NGO and started practicing environmental education.
Wow, that is quite a story there. And I think I like that you brought out that you took time, you understood, and you did your research and you consulted, because it's something that I think keeps coming up in these different sessions that we've been having. Well, apart from that, you wear a lot of titles. Apart from being the director of your organization, you're also a head of education in the Bright Future Project. How, and among other things, of course, how do you find time to manage all these things?
Well, time management is a huge issue, you know, when you're busy. But I think it's all about being focused,
Yes.
planning each day out the day before. Every time before you go to bed, you kind of have a clear outline in your mind of how the day will go the following day. So basically, I just try and plan out my days the day before. Why am I kind of all over the place? Like a lot of people will say,
All over
you seem
the
to be
place.
involved in everything. Why? Can't you just focus on one thing? That's also the accusation that environmental education gets.
Okay.
That environmental education
It's
is
every-
not focused.
Yeah.
It's here, it's there. Well, environmental education is all about looking at the environment from a holistic point of view.
Okay.
Yeah, so you look at the political sphere, you look at the biophysical sphere, you look at the economic sphere, and you look at the social sphere. So if you're going to touch all those areas, you notice you will appear to be all over the place. You see?
Okay.
So in our case as Miju Eco Care, the reason why we are interested in the partnerships, memberships that we are connected to is because of the vision and objectives that we've made for ourselves as an NGO.
Okay.
But those objectives and that vision also feeds into the national vision and objectives of the country.
Okay.
So maybe I can give a bit of detail.
Of course, sure.
So why are we interested in tourism? If you get to our platform, you will notice we promote tourism a lot. The reason why we're interested in tourism is because when you look at Zambia right now, the biggest challenge we have is actually our economy. And since independence, the number one priority has always been to diversify the economy, because it was hinged and centered on a mining sector.
Yes.
But we knew we couldn't depend on the mining sector because of the fluctuating prices with copper. Okay?
Yes.
So the idea was, okay, let's diversify the economy. In spite of all the years that have passed, we haven't quite successfully done it. But if we're going to do it successfully, we will have to consider what the tourism sector has to offer. The tourism sector as of 2018 was the fastest growing economy.
Wow.
Fastest growing sector in the economy.
That's a great fact.
The tourism sector. 2019, January, February, it maintained that momentum. Then COVID hit, and of course things have gone downhill. Not just for tourism, but for the
different
entire
sectors,
economy.
yes.
So the reason why we're focused on tourism is because tourism is supposed to be the leading sector together with agriculture.
Okay.
Why tourism? One, because it has a capacity to grow very quickly. That means it creates a lot of jobs, and the majority of those jobs can be green jobs. And when we talk about green jobs, we link that to the conservation careers.
I see what you did there.
The conservation jobs. The conservation jobs are green jobs. And when we talk about wildlife conservation, environmental conservation, which is what I'm also connected to through the Wildlife and Environmental Conservation Society, that is the foundation that holds tourism together. Because in order for tourism to be a sustainable sector, we will have to switch to ecotourism. And when we talk about ecotourism, we're talking about tourism that has a focus on economic development,
Yes.
sustainable development, but at the same time, respect for the environment, environmental protection, and including locals in the increase of that particular sector. So
Wow.
ecotourism is supposed to be one of the two leading sectors in Zambia. Hence our connection to tourism and connection to environment and wildlife conservation. I mentioned agriculture, which is
Yes,
supposed to
indeed.
be the twin to
Tourism.
agriculture, when not done well, leads to massive environmental degradation.
Very
When we
true.
talk about land use change, one of the ways in which a lot of habitats in which wildlife is found are actually being lost is because of the expansion of areas for agriculture. So in order for agriculture to become a viable economic sector, we will have to find ways of practicing sustainable agriculture. Agriculture that's good. That brings us to my connection and Mizu Eco Care's connection to agroecology.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so I'm on the executive committee for the Zambia Alliance for Agroecology and Biodiversity.
Okay.
Because we have an interest in promoting the right type of agriculture.
Okay.
What do we mean exactly when we talk about practicing the right type of agriculture, agroecology? We're talking about the type of agriculture that moves away from the monocrop dominant agriculture.
Okay.
You will notice in Zambia when you talk about a bumper harvest, the term bumper harvest only comes in when you're talking about one crop, maize.
Yes, unfortunately.
Anything else could be grown successful and you could have millions of tons. No one talks about a bumper harvest because we've all been brainwashed into believing that agriculture should be centered on one crop.
Okay.
What we need is a diversity of crops. And it's important to have a diversity of crops because that also means you increase the nutritional base for the nation. So just in case maize doesn't do well, you have all these other alternatives you can focus on that also give us the various nutrients that give us balanced diets.
Oh,
So
wow.
agroecology, permaculture, holistic management are meant to help us achieve that broad base that offers us diverse crops. It also means we move away from the obsession and addiction to chemical fertilizers, okay? Artificial fertilizers, obsession and addiction to pesticides. It means we move away from focusing on large-scale farms and try and find ways to empower the small-scale farmers. Because the majority of the farmers are the small-scale farmers.
Yes.
And 60% to 70% of the crops grown in the country are actually grown by the small-scale farmers. So we need to find ways of empowering them so that they're not chained by fertilizers that they have to buy and pay for, chemicals that they have to buy and pay for, emphasis on maize that's not making any of the small-scale farmers any richer. Their financial status has been a flat line for so many years. So we need to give power back to the farmers, connect them to indigenous seeds, the indigenous foods. The hybrids we talk about, those are new crops. We didn't have them 60 years ago.
Okay.
What's happened to the foods we were originally connected to? The foods that our ancestors have passed on generation after generation
That's a good
for
question.
thousands of years.
Yeah.
What happened to all those? How come all of a sudden now
Maize.
we are addicted to hybrid seed?
Okay.
You cannot grow anything unless you have hybrid seed, pesticides, chemical fertilizers. It shouldn't be like that. Let's empower the farmers back with indigenous seeds, indigenous foods. We go back to our roots, the indigenous methods of farming. Let's pick out the best aspects of that and bring them
practice
back.
them, yes.
So that the amount of money people spend or invest in agriculture is actually minimized, but the outcome increases. If we give power back to the small-scale farmers, the agricultural sector will become a thriving sector.
Okay.
Why do we suggest that agriculture should be the twin to tourism? Because it has the capacity to also expand greatly whilst having a minimal carbon footprint, just like ecotourism. As we speak, the largest employer in Zambia, when we talk about the combination of formal sector jobs and informal sector jobs, is actually agriculture. So it's already leading. All we need to do is consolidate the foundation so that it can do far much more than it's currently doing.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. I think now it has been cleared and we know why Mizu Eco Care is all over the place. I really, really appreciate that you brought up all these this aspect. And I feel like if anyone is watching now and they're thinking, oh, what career path should I take? They generally have an idea. So just tying into what you said earlier about COVID, it seems to me, I'm a keen follower of your page and I see you're always up and about as an organization. COVID has changed life as we know it. How has this affected or has this impacted your work in any way, and how have you adapted?
Okay. Before I talk about COVID in relation to Mijueko Care, I'll try and link COVID to another economic sector that we need to focus on.
Okay.
The manufacturing sector. The one thing that the COVID pandemic has revealed to us as Zambia is that we are over-reliant on goods that come in from outside the country. And the reason for that is because we have a very weak manufacturing sector.
Okay.
Okay. So if we have a strong manufacturing sector, we won't have to depend on goods coming from outside the country. Then the manufacturing sector will be supported by the agricultural sector, which will be producing raw products.
Ah, okay.
Value addition will take place in the manufacturing sector. The outcome from the manufacturing sector can now be exported and also taken into the tourism sector, which is a highly consumptive sector. So when we talk about those pillars, agriculture, tourism, the third one is actually supposed to be the manufacturing sector.
Yes.
The money that comes out of tourism, agriculture, and the manufacturing sector doesn't go out of the country. It stays within the country and makes the financial sector grow.
Okay.
But the financial sector should be based on green principles. That means the money should be meant to support businesses and opportunities that respect environmental sustainability.
Ah,
so
okay.
Manufacturing sector, agricultural sector, and tourism sector are supposed to be key. Our involvement in recycling, the Bright Future project, is because we want to be part of the manufacturing sector by adding value to waste, which is meant to be of no value, but if you upscale it and recycle it, you actually add value to it. Coming to COVID in relation to Mijueko Care, you know, we had a number of plans before COVID came.
So did everybody else.
Exactly. So many opportunities, then COVID hits and all of a sudden all the opportunities are either postponed or cancelled. But we thought we should do what we do best. And as environmental educators, our emphasis is on mindset change. And in order to change mindsets, we tell stories. So we said, okay, we've got this dark cloud called COVID-19.
What do we do?
How do we pick a silver lining out of this? Let's tell stories about what's going on in the communities and the differences that we can actually make.
Okay.
So that meant we went into community outreach, translating COVID messages from English into Tonga, Lozi, Bemba, Tonga, Lozi, and Bemba with the collaboration of ZAB, Zambia Alliance for Agroecology and Biodiversity. So that was an opportunity to try and take the message to rural areas. Okay, so that's one thing we got into. Then we got commissioned by the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa, which asked us to do research and also write articles on how farmers were coping with the COVID crisis and also how farmers were contributing towards the food systems and seed systems in Zambia.
Okay.
So that opportunity came along again because of the COVID situation. We've also had opportunities to go out into communities with one of our other partners, Solidaridad, in Itebe, Southern Province, where we've been documenting whatever it is they're doing in making a difference to those local communities. So the COVID era, in spite of all the disadvantages, has turned out to be kind of positive because of the opportunities brought in with the storytelling.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you heard it here first. You can work in conservation and work in different sectors and still support conservation works. As we get to the questions, please do remember to go to our website. That's cczambia.org. phiri.com to check for any opportunities that have been uploaded if you're interested or you are in the in search of a job. Our first question, Timothy, is do you take on mentees? Why didn't I say this coming?
Do we take on mentees? Yes, we do. The one thing I've always done as a teacher is build strong bonds with all my students. So I understand that as a teacher, you're supposed to be an authority figure. And, you know, there's supposed to be that respect between the student, pupil, and the teacher.
Okay.
But the people that influenced the way I taught, the way I teach, always made me feel like a future colleague. They gave me that kind of respect. I can talk about Dr. B. Chileshe. I can talk about Professor Namafi. I can talk about Dr. Msaka, who took me in psychology. I can talk about Mbinji Mfalo. I can talk about Raso Sibisi at Koseko. These are all people that I was a student, but they gave me this respect like I was an equal. So most of the students that have been through my hands, even after they graduate, I remain in touch with them.
Okay.
And most of them are still helping me in various aspects with Miju Eco Care. When we talk about our full-time staff, half are former EE students.
Wow.
My former students.
Okay.
So that connection remains, and we're very much interested in taking on students on internship. It's part of what we do. Of course, limited numbers at a time.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah.
I like that you talked about supporting Miju Eco Care, because our second question is how can someone support the organization? Support
Miju Eco Care?
Yes.
Well, just like any other NGO, of course, we need support. The first way that we would love to be supported is just by working together, having collaborations. If you've got any challenge you're facing related to the environment, you can get in touch with us and we see how we work together to solve that problem.
Okay.
It could be an awareness issue you want to bring out, and that's how we actually get a lot of our posts. If you notice, most of our posts will actually say what the source of the post is, because people see a problem in their community and then they get in touch with us and talk about that problem, then we bring it out to the rest of the world.
Okay.
So collaborations are one way in which we would like to be helped. We also need assistance with electronic gadgets. You know, when you tell stories, you make documentaries, the gadgets are expensive.
I know that for sure.
Renting is
expensive also.
Exactly. So of course, if any partner could come up and back us up in that area, that would be a big boost to us.
Okay.
You could also help us by just joining us whenever we have an activity.
Yes, that
when
is
we
very
visit
important.
orphanages, we could collaborate and probably put money together and make donations together. I think the opportunities for collaboration and cooperation are diverse.
Okay, which also ties to our third question. So someone is saying, I'm interested in starting my own organization. Would you encourage me to partner with an existing organization, or just go right in and found one myself?
I think there are two ways of doing it. When you're a new organization, people kind of don't trust your intentions because you're new.
Okay.
So there'll be a period of time when no one actually gives you any grants, no one gives you any money, because they need to know whether you are for real or not.
Yes.
So even if you start an NGO straight out, you need to be aware of the fact that you will spend about 1 year
your own,
just being you and doing you. Most grants actually have that condition.
Okay.
You must have been operating for at least 1 year from the day you were.
Which is very fair.
Yes, it is. Because we can't run away from the fact that a number of people will get into the NGO world because they want money.
True.
But no one is going to put money where there is no passion. And the way you prove that you have passion is by doing what you're passionate about, even when there is no money. So even as Miju, the first 1 year, all the documentaries we did before we got hooked to partners and met partners, everything we did was from our pocket. And we didn't take that as people slighting us. We knew it's hard to get anyone to put money on a cause unless you know it's for real, unless you know these people are truly passionate about what they're doing.
Okay.
So if you're going to go straight out and start an NGO,
On your own?
you need to know you'll have that 1 to 2 year period when you're just on your own. So you will depend on partnerships. So if you can go the other route where you start with probably working with other people, building connections, and then using those connections as a launch pad to launch your organization, that's also a valid route to take. So I would say either of those two is fine.
Okay, great. You have it here. You can either go out on your own or find an existing organization to partner with. Our fourth question is, how does one make it into tourism and agriculture? I feel like this is very general. So this person is asking, how does one make it? Is it, I'm not sure if, how do you penetrate the industry, or how do you get success stories in tourism and agriculture? Do you have a comment on this?
How do you make it into
How
tourism?
how does one make it into tourism and agriculture?
The advantage we have is that we live in the information age.
Yes.
The most influential and powerful sector is the information sector. And social media has empowered all of us.
Very much
There was
so.
a time when stories and news could only come from media houses. But now anyone can be a source of a story. Anyone can be a reporter. All they need to do is take out their phone.
Okay.
So if your aim is to go into agriculture, take advantage of social media. You've got a group on Facebook that's made up of farmers. Farming as a business, small-scale farmers,
Okay.
in brackets, farming as a business. It's got 500,000 members, 500,000 experienced farmers.
Wow.
That means you get advice for free that under normal circumstances
You would have to pay
for.
lots of money, actually.
Exactly. So if you want to get into farming, you join that group. And every time when you go on that platform, those are the questions people put in. This is what's happening to my tomatoes. What is this?
Yes.
Within seconds, the answers will come in the comment section. My chickens are dying. The feathers are coming off. What is this? Help comes. It's like the ultimate empowerment if you want to go into farming. So you could start practicing from your backyard garden, and you get all this support from social media. That's not the only group. You've got the ZAB platform. You've got so many agricultural platforms, seed knowledge and learning platform. You've so many platforms that you can tap into and actually get advice from on what you need to do. There are people that actually ask questions like, I need to buy land, where can I find good land? How much capital do I need to start fish farming? Answers just come.
Right,
So if you want to get into agriculture, I would say take advantage of the resources that are available on social media. If you want to get into tourism is a harder sector to get into because you really need to be properly established.
Okay.
My advice would be form partnerships. Don't go into it alone. Find people you can register companies with. Find people you can probably volunteer with. Find people that you can work for, gain experience, learn the ins and outs of running a lodge before you actually go into the sector full-time yourself. So there are really so many entry points that one can look at when they decide to get into the agricultural sector or tourism sector. If someone is actually working, then you have security because you have your job that's bringing you money, but you can also start agriculture as a side hustle.
Okay.
And you can get into tourism as a side hustle. Then when you establish yourself, go full time into your true passion.
Okay, this has been a great conversation. I personally have taken so much away, and I will be visiting these various social media pages that you gave out. Thank you so much for making time to be with us today.
A pleasure. I just want to say I'm proud of what the Conservation Careers has become. This is a wonderful platform, and it's important in helping all of us get connections and opportunities so that we make our country more developed and better.
Okay, great. Have a great day, and be sure to join us tomorrow for our last day of the Conservation Careers Fair.